Thank you, Planchang. Hey guys, I have the most absurd realization. Yes. This is embarrassing. When I was a small child, I was a big fan of the Dukes of Hazzard. It's not really my fault. John and Luke were cute. Okay. But the news this morning brought word that the car, the General Lee, had perished. Do y'all realize how endemic racism is in our country? That I was like, woohoo, go General Lee! So when we talk about dismantling systemic racism, sure, a lot of it is housing codes and environmental racism and structural things like the cradle to prison pipeline. And some of it is as simple as these cultural things that we think are okay and that take us like 40 years to go, maybe that's not what I thought it was. So I confess my fandom as a child, and I also really look forward to a day when we are not encouraged to cheer on the General Lee. Okay, seriously, was anybody else out there a fan? Oh, thank goodness, you aren't leaving me alone. Okay. Here are some other things. Did anybody, Judy, you looked at the videos for Temple of Tolerance. Has anybody else looked at those videos, or has anybody been? Martha, yes. Excellent, excellent. I kind of want to do like an all-out road trip and go up and see it and experience it. Yes? I mean, I think it could be very, you know, it's different. Like at church, we say we encourage people to learn things with our brains and then do things and then reflect in our hearts. So it would be interesting to have that experience. let's see, what else? There's like a list of things I want to tell you that were not important, but were important. Oh, thank you for showing up at 11. That's a big thing because we're back on regular time. Oh, I know. Next week, Claire, are you on next week? Yes. And you're going to be over across the hall? Claire's going to be preaching next week because I realized last year, like with all of COVID and all of the everything that went with that, I need to take more regular time to take care of myself. So I'm going to endeavor to take some regular time off. That means that two things. One, I'll be gone with a regular rhythm. And two, we need more people to fill the pulpit. To that end, and also inspired by Marilyn, who said, you really need to do this. To that end, we are having a, it's not yet scheduled. We will schedule a class for sermon writing and to prepare people to lead from the pulpit. So that's going to be coming up if you're interested in that. And if you think, gosh, I think I'm interested in that, but I don't really know, sign up anyway. You'll get to decide as we go along. Claire's presentation has a lot of audio-visual components, and she is going to have worship in Pearl Fiber. No? I was anticipating a collective gasp. But worship will be in Pearl Fiber next week so that we can use the AV equipment there. Now, are there any board members here who might like to come up and talk about the AV equipment here in the sanctuary? Hi, Edie. Hello.
But before I be a board member, greetings, St. John. I am back from a wonderful trip to Romania. My son Curtis, his wife Pumla, and 3-year-old daughter Lulu live in Cluj-Napoca, Kolozsvár in Hungarian. I bring warm greetings from Nard St. Laszlo and Neomont. Silomar, their pastor, and Vera Kaleman were wonderful hosts. Silomar has 3 churches. He preaches in Nard St. Laszlo on Sunday morning, Neomont in the afternoon, and once a month at his 3rd church in late afternoon. Silomar gave us lodging Sunday night and played a board game with us. And he actually came in second because he got a lot of mulligans for my 2 sons. I came in last. Somebody has to do it. I am proud that St. John's has this 30-year connection. May we have 30 more. Now I change hats. And as past president, I bring a message from the Board of Trustees. The board has exciting news. All of you have been with us through first YouTube recorded services, then Zoom services during the pandemic. Know that we have had to piece together our video and audio using computers from home, and right now, a computer, a tablet, and a smartphone at church in order to present service virtually. We've strained at echoes and unclear audio till we arrived at this interim solution of bungee cording a smartphone to the pulpit. Well, an ad hoc team led by Claire Wagner with Bill Serber and Ping Cheng He did a lot of homework to learn what systems exist, what might fit our sanctuary size and layout, what's a good value, and also what will likely last a long time. We wanted to improve access for members and friends who need to continue to attend services virtually, and to improve hearing access for those who come in person with hearing challenges. By creating equitable access, these changes reflect disability justice in action. Also, during summer, we heard from our property chair, Cliff Schisler, that priorities identified by the congregation in discussions about the master plan might fit the AV goals of our streaming plans. So we included elements of improved sound and adding high-grade, easy-to-see video and images in the sanctuary in a request for proposals. That means there are 3 elements to the RFP, that's request for proposal. The ability to live stream in high quality, the ability to show video and images well in the sanctuary, and to upgrade the audio system of the sanctuary for everyone. Our speakers are between 20 to 30 years old and still work, but perhaps not for long. Claire wrote up the request for proposals, the board approved it, and it was sent to 6 regional AV streaming companies that have worked with churches. 5 of those companies sent representatives to meet with the team and Reverend Mitra and to review our space. We ended up with 3 of them submitting proposals. The board reviewed them and before feeling confident making a decision, took up the offer from Board Vice President Mike Nugent to have a nonpartisan expert, someone who does this work at UC, review the proposals for us. That worked well. He did a review and had a 51-minute, I'm glad she so precisely measured it, 51-minute talk with Claire this week. The 2 of them leaned toward one vendor's proposal for fit and practicality, American Sound and Electronics, ASE. Claire also looked at the video services online from 9 churches that ASE had provided as references and called 2 of them to find out what for references. One of the 2 called back and had high praise for ASE, saying it was the church's go-to for all things AV for 10 years. So that church has used them for 10 years. So here is where we are. The board approved a total package of not more than $50,000 to buy and have installed 2 specialty cameras and all the cables and mountings and hardware that go with them. Equipment to combine the audio and video sources for Zooming. A large mounted screen on the front wall. A professional grade laser projector to send images and video to the screen. An updated speaker system for the sanctuary. And a new set of listening devices for hard of hearing visitors. We know that some hard of hearing folk have not liked our system earlier because it doesn't work very well. These important improvements will be paid for from a combination of endowment funds and cash reserves. And a note, like other products during the pandemic, electronics are often on back order. We anticipate receiving the equipment in 8 to 9 weeks, so bear with us. Like I said, we are excited to be improving our systems and coming up to speed with the video capacity and expectations of the time. Will you please join me in thanking the people who have contributed to creating virtual services the last 18 months and who have done the homework to help us produce high-quality virtual services in the near future. And thank you very much. I think we're entering the 21st century.
We have, I asked Marie to come in and wave at people. Come say, like, wave at people. This is Marie Anonley. She is going to be outside with children. And Alicia's back there with you. Anybody else making it back? Greg, well, he has to be back in here. But we're doing some other things online, and I've sort of pulled Ashley to do some other online things right now. So if you would like to help Marie with doing things for kids during service, you can reach out to her or Alicia Rosalo and let them know. And we will keep this going as safely as possible, as creatively as possible, as we wait for things to adjust one more time. So thank you, Marie. And we'll be out back.
Right. And please do read the newsletter because there's going to be more information about programming, not only for children, but adults.
Yes.
And a blog post by yours truly on our website.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Woo. Okay, we're getting like on in time. You guys have been really patient. Nicole is in the back row, the very, very back row, probably because she's hiding out and now I'm pointing at her, so that's a little bit awkward, but there you go. We have a tradition of supporting the Walk Out of Darkness, which is a suicide awareness and prevention effort. And that is coming up October 10th. And I do not like that they have moved it to the middle of the day, because a walk out of darkness at 2 p.m. seems questionable to me. But they have, and we will support the theme and the people and the ethic, and see Nicole for more information if you would like to sign up and participate with that effort. Oh, me and my family are going to lead a discussion of the book Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I don't know when that's going to happen, but my poor 15-year-old was assigned it in school. So I'm like, I can use that. And it's really, it's a book worth reading. I think those are all the announcements for this morning. If it's not all the announcements, we'll put it in Tuesday e-news and that will suffice. All right, my best beloveds, there we go. I long for music in many, many ways. The Personnel Committee has been working with a team to hire a new choir director. Yay, we're not there yet. I want to give a special appreciation to Rob Thacker and our Sunday singers and invite them up to help us begin worship time more properly with an opening song. Gather the Spirit.
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, we care for the church and each other.
Our affirmation is on this big TV, which I give you only 8 or 9 more weeks to enjoy before it is replaced with something more modern. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. Thank you. Hey, we have another board member in the house who I would like to invite forward to share his story of membership with us. Mike Nugent, hi, come on down. I was working on the sermon for later today, and I came upon the idea of redemptive suffering from a Catholic perspective. I texted Mike and said, I don't understand this, explain it to me. And you said, it makes no sense.
Exactly.
Can't help you, yes.
Good morning. So yes, I joined St. John's literally right before COVID. So it's been about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. And as Mitra said, so I grew up in Cincinnati, was born and raised. Left here mid-'80s, spent about 25 years living on the East Coast. Part of that journey on the East Coast, I spent 6 years in seminary studying to be a Catholic priest. Yeah, I know, it doesn't make any sense. Left, I was ordained a deacon, was privileged to be able to baptize people, bury them, marry them, preach in front of 1,000 people. I spent a year in a hospice as a pastoral care associate and was fortunate to be able to allow people to allow me to be with them in their last moments. But I made the decision, obviously, to not finish that journey. But I have no regrets. It was probably one of the most special things I've done in my life. But when I finished that journey, I came back because there was really nothing to keep me on the East Coast. And so I came back to Cincinnati, went back to graduate school for the second time, and have now been a professor of finance at UC for the last 10 years. I know finance seminary doesn't really match up, but it does, ironically. And it took a while for me to discover that because before I went to UC, I was a wealth advisor and portfolio manager for Morgan Stanley. And what I came to realize is that my calling was to serve. But there's many different ways of serving. And it can be ministerial, meaning more from a theological perspective or more from a more casual perspective. And what I didn't realize until I did it is that when you manage somebody's money, they tell you things they don't even tell their spouse. I've never in my life felt comfortable walking in within 30 seconds of meeting somebody and saying, how much do you make? Or let me see your taxes. But when I would meet a potential new client, the first thing was, how much do you make, and let me see your taxes. And so it became a very personal experience. And then coming to UC and working with students, there's probably been nothing more special to me than that ability to journey with people. And it's interesting to see students, whether they're undergraduates or graduates, and you see where they start and where they finish. Sometimes the difference is profound. And to me, there's nothing more uplifting when you get that magical email that you never expected and said, you know, I remember you told me this in class like 3 years ago, and I used it at work today, and it really mattered. Or you were really well, I can't repeat that. And I hated your class, but either way, it was that ability to journey with people. So how does that relate to here? Why did I come to St. John's? There were a few reasons. One is the ability to serve in a different way. So as Mitra mentioned, I was invited to be on the board, I guess, early last spring. I remember talking to David Roth, and he asked me if I would be willing to serve, and I said, sure. He said, would you be willing to be the vice president? I'm like, what? He said, well, you know, what happens is next year you're the president. I said, do you really know what you're asking? And I warned David, I said, be careful, because I'm the type, if you ask me what I think, I'll tell you. I said, make sure that that's the type of personality you want on the board, because good or bad. But I was blessed with the opportunity to serve in so many different ways. But that was a piece. Another piece was, unlike my past experience in seminary, I believe very strongly that there is not one path to faith, but there are many paths. We all have our own path. And I believe each one of those paths should be not just accepted, but revered. And one of the things with St. John's is, regardless of how we got here, there's a mutual respect, admiration, not just acceptance, but respect for all paths, regardless of what those may be. Another piece was accepting us for who we are. Now, one of the things that bothered me in the Catholic Church was there's a sense of being in and out. Like you're kind of in the club or you're not in the club. There's no club. We all come here in our own way, in our own paths, and each of those are accepted. There's not the sense that, well, you didn't come here this way, or you believe that way, or you live that way, or whatever it may be. We're all one. And that, to me, I'm a child of the 60s, protested the whole bit, so that was so important to me. And the other piece is we don't just talk about our faith, we live it. So it's not just a matter of walking in, professing what we believe, and we walk outside and it kind of stays inside. Like one of the jokes was going to a Catholic mass was people would pray inside and flip you off in the parking lot. And it did happen. I mean, you can laugh, but it happened. Here, there's this sense of living what we believe through actions. And regardless of what that may be, I think that's so important. So for me, it's an honor to be part of St. John's. And so thank you.
Well, Mike said two things that are profoundly important. He said the first thing was about journeying together and being accepted here, and your story is welcome here. I'd like us to hold both these things in our heart Hun Chang, will you play for us as we share the placing of stones for joys and sorrows? Let me find my mouse. And I invite you to come down and place a stone if there is a joy or sorrow on your heart or mind.
It is a great appreciation. It is a great appreciation for each and all of you that we come together to journey with one another through all that life may bring us. There are sorrows in this life and there are joys. Being together in community means that we don't have to bear our sorrows alone. And it means that when we have a chance to rejoice,
We can share in the joy. John Kachuba wanted to say a word of joy and gratitude for St. John's community and caring circle. Emily Hodges reminds us of a deep appreciation for the celebration of life yesterday for Tom Conroy. Thank you for everybody who helped with that. Dave and Kathy Rentz want to share with the community that Dave is currently being treated for bladder cancer. The surgery was successful and there is no evidence of spreading, and he has a great doctor. He'll be watched carefully for the next several years. And we are grateful for the good medicine and the good family and the good connections. This is Labor Day weekend, so there's a shout out to Larry Wolf, cultural geography professor who was with us into his 90s. He was the Grand Marshal of the first Gay Pride Parade. The very first time I preached here, Larry Wolf was already in his 90s, and he said to me, "You said the word God 5 times, but I think I like you anyway." He always spoke out about Labor Day weekend being his mother's holiday. He was born on Labor Day, so hooray to all the women who have been in the labor movement on whatever basis. Thank you, Martha. Oh, my friends, it is good to be together. Hun Chang, would you Since you're at the piano, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and play for the offertory. We take up an offering to sustain the good works of this church. I believe it really does matter that we are here. Also, Peng Chang, we're running a little bit long today, so if you could shorten appropriately, that would be appreciated. So I invite you to give either in non-perishable goods or in money. And you know what, like all this talk about what we've been through with COVID, right now, today, Pete Asman is sitting up here doing good work, and Bill Lurston is beside him learning how to do this good work. We only get by at this place through people who share their talents and are willing to step in and learn a new thing. There are many, many ways to give, and we are deeply appreciative for all of them. Thank you.
Our reading today
There we go. So sandwiched in between our article today, I will be reciting a poem by Maya Angelou. While we cannot go back and change the past or erase painful memories, we can make choices in the present. We can choose how we live our lives, change the lens which we perceive the world, and look for lessons along the way. According to the famous Chinese philosopher Confucius, there are 3 methods to gaining wisdom: reflection, which is noblest; imitation, which is easiest; and experience, which is bitterest. Bitter though it may be, our experience of pain and suffering has the potential to become our ultimate instrument of transformation and creativity. When we are hurt, slighted, or disappointed, it can be all too easy to follow the path of least resistance and wallow in self-pity. We all do this at one point or another and can easily remain stuck. But we can also choose another path. We can make the conscious decision to embrace our pain and use it to fuel our creative impulses. Maya Angelou, Frida Kahlo, Marcel Proust, and Edvard Munch, all recognized as masters in their respective disciplines, are just a handful of the many talented artists throughout time who turned unfathomable human suffering into riveting works of art. Through the process of personal catharsis and healing, each also transformed a society. Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips its wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped, his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a cage bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. One need not be a poet, painter, or activist to implement the tools of creative transformation. Whether it is simply taking a course in painting or starting a journal, expressing rather than repressing may prove invaluable in the healing process. Whether out of societal or personal oppression, every cage bird has a voice and the potential to transform a society or simply heal a soul.
Oh, thank you, Rita. Told her I think we're done. That was very nice, very, very good. All right, so this is my husband. Hi, Greg. He and I can be a little nerdy about things. We like to do things like go to museums and find accidental things. A few years ago, he bought me a book of sculptures and public art in the Cincinnati area. And when we have time, we'll go and try to find something. So he thought we would go to the Neil Armstrong Museum. So we went up to Wapakoneta, which is this little town about an hour and a half, 2 hours up from here. And we had lunch, lovely little restaurant, and then we wandered over to this shop that sold secondhand costume jewelry. And the guy there was really nice. And he had a pit bull, and I cannot resist a nice pit bull. So I'm sitting in the floor of this shop, playing with the pit bull, and this guy is telling me about the Temple of Tolerance, which is what you're seeing on this screen here. And for those of you who are at home, you can see a little bit of it, but you can Google it too, and you'll find the pictures. So Neil Armstrong had to wait for another day because we were off to the Temple of Tolerance. Now, when we had driven into Wapakoneta, I had seen this house with this peculiar plethora of rocks and things in the front yard. It didn't occur to me someone would open up their home and say, come on back, come down the driveway, enter my backyard, walk around till your heart's content, it's all good here. There are two ways that history tells itself. One is through, the curated museum where the message is told. That's often a message that supports the dominant status quo, right? It's like a thing. So think of the Black Hills of South Dakota, and you've got like the Rock Rushmore, what Anthony used to call it, Mount Rushmore, with the presidents and the official story. This is America, it says, be proud. And then not so far away, you have the Crazy Horse Monument, which shockingly takes no federal funding and tells their own story of America and is unofficial in many ways and is powerful and good. Finding those unofficial stories is kind of good. When our son and Gregory drove out west this summer, they stopped in Ludlow, Colorado at a monument there for the Ludlow Massacre. That monument is fully funded by the Union. So there's different ways of learning history. There's different ways of learning humanity. So here in Wapakoneta, this man has put up this Temple of Tolerance in his backyard. And he has said, whoever you are, wherever you are, spiritually, personally, however old or young you are welcome to come here and pause for a little while, and that is good. So we walked back there, and it was breathtaking. It was not beautifully polished. You can see by the pictures, it is made mostly of things discarded. There are broken tiles here. There are bits and pieces, there are broken tombstones, there are bricks, there are boulders that are interesting. In one place, he has, it was formerly a stair step from the KKK's meeting house, where he has repurposed it at the Temple of Tolerance and used it as a bench. It has bits and pieces of wrought iron and pieces of brass and broken angels, Hindu gods, wrought iron finials, you name it. If it could be knocked down from a building, if it could be salvaged from a yard, he has done it, and he has brought it to this place to create something new. The other thing about this place is that when you go in, you don't know where to go. It's not obvious. You walk in And there are three directions, always. And I've been there now 3 or 4 times. I can't help it. It's just really interesting. And every time I go, I find something new. And I realized in watching these videos that part of it is because you come in and there are 3 paths at every juncture, because he says 2 paths are a choice. You choose right or left. But 3 paths are disoriented. And we need to be disoriented before we can transform. What do you do when you get to a 3-way intersection? Where do you go? How do you decide? It's tricky business. What do you do when a pandemic comes and stops everything you thought you knew? What do you do when you can no longer be together with people the way you used to be? What do you do when everything upends? How do you go forward? Which way do you choose? Disorientation is the beginning of transformation. We just have to seize the moment. So you go through this maze and there are these beautiful little grottos or shrines set up at the ends of these paths where you might have a statue or a stack of rocks or something to catch your eye, and it feels like a place to rest. And eventually you will find your way to the center section, which has like a step pyramid ziggurat Ohio interpretation of ancient wisdom. I don't know what's going on back there. I really don't. But there is a temple mound in this backyard in Wapakoneta that you are invited to climb to the top of. And you climb to the top of it, and there is a fire pit, and there are benches, and there is a feeling of profound peace. And the centerpiece, this kind of focal point, the centerpiece at the top of it is a stone carving of a stone carver. Lest you feel yourself oriented, they give you something surreal to disorient you once again. It is amazing. It is amazing. If you watch the videos, Jim Boucher, the guy that put this together, will tell you why he did it. But before I tell you why he thinks he did it, let me tell you what I think he did. Like the moment I walked in, you just get hit with this feeling. And I told Gregory, I said, this feels like pain transformed into beauty. Pain, brokenness, the shattered, knocked down parts of us, reclaimed and redeemed and made into something whole and beautiful once again. That's what the blues do. That's what art does. And make no mistake about it, music and art are necessary for humans to thrive. We need a place where we can do that work of reclaiming the pain and transforming it into beauty. And this is why I ended up texting Mike saying, redemptive suffering, I don't get it and I don't like it. And he said, that's okay. You don't have to get it. It doesn't really make any sense. I'm not calling for redemptive suffering. I'm not saying that suffering is good. I'm saying that suffering in life is a given. If you are alive, you will find pain and suffering and sorrow and sadness. And if you are lucky, you will find an outlet where that suffering can be made into meaning, can be made into beauty. The story of Frida Cole's life is a story of physical pain, immense physical pain. And her art is it is transformative to be present to her art. You heard the poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird, or the Caged Bird, and you have that coming out of a Black woman's experience in America. I don't need to go into the details of how it is a caging of the spirit in this particular society. Disorientation is the first step to enlightenment, Jim Boucher says. He created the place as a place where kids who were in trouble in some way could come and find peace, no matter how difficult life was at school or at home. At the Temple of Tolerance, they could set it down and be who they were and be loved as they are. And in one of the videos I think I sent out, he talks about believing in the goodness of humanity. All right, so here's the thing. If you turn on the news, you may be tempted to not believe in the goodness of humanity. Just saying. But he tells the story of going into a prison and saying in front of the prisoners that he believed in the innate goodness of people. And they went, ha 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 ha. But that's just silly. You're talking to prisoners. And he said, I'll prove it to you. He said, close your eyes and just go with my words. He says, right now, if there were a child crying outside these doors, outside these walls, everyone here would have the first instinct to go see what was happening and to help that child. And there was a moment of silence. And then someone said, but, and he goes, nope, you can't have that procrastination tempt you into something different. The first instinct is to care for one another. The first instinct is to love one another. Everything else comes later. Disorientation is the beginning of enlightenment. I'm feeling disoriented these days. Y'all know what I did during COVID time? Spending too much time in my basement on the computer. I enrolled in 2 separate intensive credentialing programs because I lost my mind, and no one needs a doctorate in ministry. Seriously. So Wednesday night was the board meeting, and after the board meeting, because I had decided, maybe unconsciously, to not take my DMin program seriously, I was not doing my work in a timely fashion. So after the board meeting, I signed on to see what my Monday and Tuesday assignments were. It was Wednesday, 8 p.m. at this point. And it was an hour-and-a-half lecture on fundraising. Mike, it's great that you talked today, because it was about money and fundraising. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this, right? Like nothing in me was like, woohoo, let's listen to a Catholic woman talk about raising $75 million for Catholic education at 8 o'clock at night alone in a Unitarian church. No, that is not the happy place I expected to be in. And she was talking and I was not impressed. And then all of a sudden she said something that caught my attention, and then something else that caught my attention. And then I was like, wow, there is tremendous wisdom here that I never would have found any other way. If you make those unexpected connections, they might lead you to things that you don't know, you don't have any way of anticipating are good. So here we are as a church community in a time where everything is upended, and we are coming together in unexpected ways. And here's my thing, there are no more old members of St. John's and new members of St. John's. There are no more like established norms that we know are the way things must be. This is not where we are right now. We are in a place where beauty might break through at any moment. We are in a place where we have known the suffering, the dissolution of community, the scattering to our own homes, and we are flirting with, playing with, putting our toe in the water of getting back together. And here, each and every one of us are new in this day. Each and every one of us are valuable, because it is in the coming together that we will find a new way through this disorientation. We have to be honest with the pain of life, and we have to be honest with the beauty. Is that a revolutionary thing to say, that you have to be honest with beauty? How about this? Don't take it for granted. When you see something that is beautiful, when you encounter something that takes your breath away, let it take your breath away. be in awe. Take that moment and let it transform you. Be awake and alive to it, because at the intersection of pain and beauty is where we will find a way to serve the world as it is right now. Are you with me? All right. That's all I gotta say. There's a song coming up, Wake Now, My Senses. This is number 295, 298, sorry, in the hymnal if you're at home. And thank you guys. Thanks to all our singers, our mini choir for leading us through this.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Hear the deep roar of creation. Hear the wail of creation. Living, receiving, as one chosen. Wake now, my reason, reach not to you. My enemies will grapple, my soul
Our benediction this morning is hold on to what is good.
Even
Even if it is a handful of earth, hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself.
hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to life, even when it is easier letting go. Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you. My friends, it is good to be in community with you this morning. I hope you will take some time and join us outside for lemonade and conversation. Thank you to the singers. Thank you to everybody who makes all of this possible. I'm not really kidding about a field trip up to the Temple of Tolerance. Yes, I've got people waving. Excellent. So let's figure out, I'm thinking if I reach out to the guy who did it, maybe he could meet us there. We could aim for a Saturday around 2 in the afternoon. We have time to drive, time to eat, time to tour, and time to come home. We're just making it up as we go along, friends. So I will see what we can do. But for now, go in peace. If you're online, stay for coffee hour. If you are in person, join us for lemonade on the front lawn, although I don't see them out there yet, but we'll be there. All right, thank you.
You can see how many people are still on. I encourage you to take a break. It's 12:05. We'll be back at 12:10. I know I want to get up and get some steps in. I will leave Zoom. Everybody's switch gallery view. Can you turn your cameras on if you are staying? I know a lot of people forget to sign out. Hi, Charles, Joy, Kathleen, Tom and Mary, Zachary, Carol, David Walker. Are you all still there? I hope. Cliff and Linda.